And I am excited today because things are so good that they are actually causing me a lot of problems. Hey men, welcome back to the Oak and Ember Podcast. I am the host and founder, Garrett Hines, episode 12. It is a great freaking day. And it's a great day because I'm talking about one of my favorite things and because I just finished doing this stuff that I'm going to talk about today. But before we get into that, I want to jump into today's quick comment. And I am excited today because things are so good that they are actually causing me a lot of problems. See, that's how it works. See, you have a lot of problems when things go really well, at least according to our current transportation secretary, who I still can't even tell yet if he's back from paternity leave or not. That's right. I'm talking about some of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard from a human being while they're trying to sell that the problems you're having are a result of excellent leadership. That's right. I don't even have words for the kind of poor quality thinking that this is. That when Pete Buttigieg, I hope I said that right. I want to be nice to the man. But when you say things like, we're having these shipping problems because our president is a boss-ass leader. Like, that's ridiculous. No, see, it even makes me want to rub my eyes because my head hurts. No, that's not how, see, when you plant oranges, you get oranges, right? You don't reap things that you haven't sown. And when you have shipping problems, that means you created a situation in which it was allowed for those shipping problems to occur. Poor leadership equals poor outcomes. And there's never, maybe, I could be wrong, never in American history have we had such a poor leader. Now, really smart guys like Ben Shapiro could probably tell me that that's an incorrect statement. And I would love to know which of our leaders in America over the last 250 plus years have been worse than this. I would be like, when did we have a president with old person syndrome who was see, it just makes my brain just and that's the ridiculous. Like, we should be able to spot this kind of stupid. And what concerns me is that people hear this rhetoric, this propaganda on, the big media outlets, looking at you, CNN, and hear that stuff and go, oh, okay, well, at least we have a good leader because he's so good he's causing problems. That's, no. We have a terrible leader who is enacting terrible policies. And it is because of those terrible policies that you can't find groceries on the store shelves. It's because of those terrible policies that we have millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country. It's because of those terrible policies that we have all of this division. There's nothing about President, aka former Vice President Joe Biden, that is of excellent leadership. And there's nothing about him that is about unifying people. No. The only thing that most people might be unified in right now, based on the comment section on YouTube, is that our current president is terrible. Look at the approval ratings. They're just continuing to sink. Like, I'm curious if we can get into single-digit approval ratings. And all that is because of stuff like this, where leaders in the government, like Pete Buttigieg, are going out and saying things like, things are so good, they're causing problems. That will remove confidence in the American people. So good job, Biden administration. You are doing the exact opposite of what you ought to be doing, and that is leading people well. Congratulations. Oh, I could go on about this stuff, guys. I could talk about this stuff all day because it's infuriating how we are being led by hypocrites. And it is causing the everyday American more problems than it is relieving problems. No. Just no. And the thing is, I love what Tom McDonald, the rapper, says. He talks about how you can love your country and despise the government. It's a great, in fact, it comes from a great song, one of his more recent releases called America. And I love my country. I love being an American. I think we bring so much good into the world. And I am absolutely fed up with the government as it stands. It's like, I get it. Democracy is a double-edged sword. There's a lot of really good things about it. And there's also a lot of terrible things about it. I still think it's the best form of government. I don't want to see any type of government that even smells like socialism or communism or monarchy or any of that other stuff. But there's some things in our political system, there's some things in our government we need to fix. And the bureaucrats and the elected officials probably aren't going to be the ones to fix them. It's got to be us, the everyday American people. We got to stop looking to the government to solve our problems. We've got to stop relying on government handouts. We've got to stop expecting other people to fix our problems. And that's it. We're going to end the quick comment right there because it's supposed to be quick. Man, really, I could go on about this stuff all day. So today, the title of today's episode is The Necessity of Nature. This stuff out here. And if there was any one thing that I could give people, it would be a love for nature. You know, when I coach people on how to take care of themselves, one of the first things I do is tell people to get outside. Get outside and do stuff with nature. Walk barefoot in the grass. Hug a tree. I mean that almost as much metaphorically as I mean literally. I'm not even real sure yet if I mean that metaphorically or literally. But really, get outside and connect with the spirit of nature. Creation. The living, breathing planet that we inhabit. And I don't have a list of things you need to do. This isn't like top 3 things to fix your mental health in nature. This is not just, I just want to ramble on. Because in a way, that's what it's like to be in nature. You can't go out into nature with an agenda and expect that agenda to go perfectly. It doesn't happen. It's not how the world works. It's not how creation works. But men have to be in nature. Like, I am filming this podcast right now, and one of my neighbors is laying in a hammock in his tree across the street. And that's exactly it. Boom. Done. Like, he's getting out in nature. And that's what men need to do. And, you know, even to broaden my understanding, I did some research on PubMed about the effects of nature. And I'm going to read you a few things here. So, for example, contextual factors. This is from a research article on PubMed. And if you want to, like, I don't even know how I was going to finish that sentence. But my point is that I got on PubMed and I just typed in the word nature. And I got more articles than I could ever, like, process through. And just a few comments that come from these articles, like contextual factors determining global levels of mental illness and health include but are not limited to marked demographic shifts in the world's population, social shifts involving increased stress and loneliness, physical shifts to more sedentary lifestyles, and the factor upon which we focus is urbanization and the loss of avenues for experience. See, look at that. All of these things that are happening to us as a people are because we are disconnected from the natural world in which we developed. Like, think about that for a second. We have not been this domesticated for very long. I mean, let's say you go back 200 years, and we were still living in a way that primarily kept us connected to the natural world. And if you think about something as simple as like living in a log cabin, right? Yeah, there's things you could do to probably insulate yourself a little bit from nature, but you're still having to deal with the elements on a 24-hour basis. But now we live in these stone surrounded, well insulated, temperature controlled environments where we are no longer required to really actually wrestle with the elements. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of benefits to that. I spent some quality time in nature this weekend, and I slept on the ground. I wrestled with the elements. I did all of those things, and I was very glad to come home and lay in my soft, comfy bed with my fan that kept me cool and the sheets that allowed me to regulate my temperature just the way I wanted. All those things I'm very thankful for. But I'm thankful for them because I have a balanced approach to living. And that's what most men, maybe not even most, let's just say that's what a lot of men are missing. We have traded the cloudy sky and the grass between our toes for a phone and a TV remote. We have traded our own adventures for watching the adventures of other people. Like, how sad is that? Most of us do not go out and have our own adventures. A lot of men are simply content to sit on the sideline and watch other men live an adventurous life. Whether that's watching sports or an outdoor fishing show or whatever, playing a video game. And don't get me wrong, any of those things on a normal level would be just fine. They would be absolutely okay when balanced with a healthy connection to the spirit of nature. Like, there's just something rich about having to wrestle with the elements. See, here's the thing. You get out in nature, not the park, not your front yard, but you get out into the wild spaces where only the adept, where only the strong, where only the resourceful can survive, right? You get out into those spaces and you have to wrestle for everything. Something in you comes alive, guaranteed. And again, there's varying degrees to this, right? So when I take my son camping, which is what we just did this weekend, when you get out into nature, like when we do, we don't go out there to do things the easy way. Like, I don't take propane stoves. We don't sleep in a camper. We don't do all of those insulated things. If that's your deal, great. I'm not against that. I just think there's another level that can be attained. And that's what I'm always working towards. You know, when we do this stuff, like when I have to make fire by hand, when I have to collect my own tinder, when I have to make fire using a ferro rod and some steel or the back of my knife, when I have to cook food on a spit that I cut out of a tree and carved into a point, when I have to do all of those things, when I have to contend with laying on the hard ground and finding my own way to sleep, I come more alive. The same is true for my son. I would argue even more so, because that's all he's ever known. He has only known growing up in the wild spaces. I take him camping as much as I can because the kid comes alive. And I can't wait to get my daughter out there, right? My daughter, like, I would take her now. Her ability to maintain control over her bladder for a long period of time precludes her from going out there with us at this point. I just need her to be a little bit older. But she comes out like overnight, and she'll stay, not overnight, she'll stay at night. She'll come out, we'll do the fire, we'll do the marshmallows, we'll do all the fun things, and then she goes home with mom. It's great. I can't wait for the whole family to be out there camping together, because it's amazing. Because you gotta get your feet in the grass. Like yesterday when I woke up to make fire, I did it barefoot, because I wanted to feel the dirt between my toes. I wanted to feel the grass between my feet. And it's just something about, like when you have to cook biscuits and gravy over an open fire with very few extra tools, and then you eat that, it's so much richer. There's a flavor and an experience to that kind of eating that you'll never get it. You cannot have it cooking biscuits and gravy over the stove. Just can't. And nature provides that, right? So like there's another piece of this article that I thought, there's a wealth of studies that has demonstrated that nature experience is associated with psychological well-being. How great is that? When you get outside, when you do stuff, it's good for your brain. And I would argue it's good for your soul. Your soul was created in the wild spaces. Humankind evolved and adapted and became the dominant species on the planet in nature. We didn't do that in concrete buildings. We didn't become who we are as a species living inside comfortable homes. We wrestled and we struggled and we fought against the elements of nature in order to survive. And I don't mean that in a like adversarial way. I don't mean we fought against nature because nature is our enemy. I mean, in order to survive, you have to fight. You have to get up and you have to make fire. You have to find prey. You have to find food. You got to forage for what you need. And all of that is a fight of sorts. And when you do that, and when you have a positive experience like that, man, it does something for your soul. Like I did not sleep as well laying on the ground as I do in my bed, but I was more rested. Because when I got up, it was like, I survived sleep. And there was a confidence builder, right? Man, we need confident men. And I argue one of the ways that you can become a confident man is by getting out in nature and struggling to survive. Now, on this overnight camping trip, was I in any danger of not surviving? No. I had my car. I could drive home. I could go to, name the restaurant and get some food. It wasn't a life or death struggle. But even just the determination to do things differently for 24 hours was a nice little confidence boost. And I see that in my son too. Like, he walks a little bit taller when we come home from camping because we got out in the wild places. We listened to the coyotes howl. We listened to the birds sing. We watched the stars. We watched the sun come up over the lake. Just so many good things that happened in our home and in our hearts, because we were men who went out into the wild. And I argue that every man needs to do that. We need to get out of our recliners. We need to get off of our sofas. We need to put the video game controller down, turn the TV off, put the phone in a drawer, in the freezer, somewhere. Do something and get outside. No, don't take your phone outside. Yes, I think that would be a terrible idea. Because there's nothing about technology that's going to help you connect to nature. It'll only act as a barrier. Sometimes I think I'm more anti-technology than maybe I am. Than maybe I'd like to admit anyways. But you can't connect to nature while you're holding a phone in your hand. You can't make fire while you have a phone beeping every 5 seconds. One of my goals is to learn how to make fire with a bow drill so that I could literally be dropped in the middle of nowhere and still make fire and still cook food. For me, one of the reasons that I go out on these camping trips with my son is so that I can practice some of the skills that I would need if everything went south and I had to take care of our family while living in the wild spaces. Now, I'm not a prepper, I'm not a doomsdayer, but I do think there are some nature-related skills that every single man should have. And every boy should grow up witnessing and learning. And unfortunately, from what I understand, we can't rely on the Boy Scouts to do that anymore. And I don't know that we should have relied on any group or organization to teach our boys how to do this. It's up to us as dads to teach our sons and teach our daughters how to thrive in the wild. Because they need that. They need that connection. Like, there's so many things I saw in this article that happen when we connect outside. Like, nature experiences associated with improved sleep. There's growing evidence, according to this article, that nature experiences is associated, good heavens, I can't read. It is associated with a decreased incidence of other disorders. They talk about things like ADHD, good heavens. I'll get my reading together here. ADHD, anxiety, all of this stuff. Like, how does the common everyday person not see this? Our technology use has skyrocketed, as has ADHD diagnoses, anxiety, depression, suicide. Now, I'm not saying correlation does not equal causation here. What I'm simply pointing to is the reality that these two things are climbing at a relatively similar rate. And what's decreasing, not the only, one of the things in that correlation that's decreasing is our experience with nature, our getting out into the wild places. Our kids need to get off this stupid, robotic, battery-sucking phone. Parents, if your dads, if your kids have a phone, and they're under the age of 18, stop it. I can tell you from working in education, for working with kids for a long period of time, your kids need to get off the phone and go outside. Out there. That's why I filmed this podcast on my front porch. 1, because I don't have space inside. And 2, even if I did have space inside, I would turn that space into an outside space so I could do this outside. Because our bodies were designed to connect with the outdoors. Our skin was designed to feel the changes in air pressure and temperature and wind. Our skin was designed to feel the earth around us. Our eyes and our ears and all of it was designed to survive and thrive outside. And when we go inside and spend all that time on our phones and spend all that time in front of a TV and we microwave our food and we eat the McDonald's cheeseburger and we do all of those things that have nothing to do with the outdoors, we harm our soul. And our souls need to be outside. I could talk about this all day. I love encouraging people to get outside. Now, I want this to be useful, right? It's not enough just to rant about how we spend too much time in front of a TV or on a device. I want to give you guys useful things. So here's what you can do. Wherever you are on the spectrum, you might be the Steve Ranella of the world. You might spend every waking hour outdoors. That's awesome. For you, keep doing that. Go. Be amazing outdoors. But for those of you who are not doing that, maybe you don't spend a lot of time outside. Start small. Go outside barefoot. Walk in the grass. Walk on the concrete barefoot. Let the rock poke you in the foot. Maybe accidentally step on a thorn or something. I don't know. Let your body do what it was designed to do, which is interact with the world outside. And if that's where you need to start there. Go for a walk at your local park as often as you can. I would argue every day. For others, you need to start getting into the wild places. You know, the Celtics believed in these areas of the Irish land called thin spaces. And they were the place where the holiness of heaven and the beauty of earth were so close together that the space between them was thin. And they were convinced that those were the best places to be. Now, I don't know if there are any thin spaces in your part of the country or world, but I know that when we get outside, we get connected to the parts of us that we need. And some of you need to start doing that. Go out into the wild spaces and do some camping. And I'm not talking about with an RV and a camper. And again, I'm not anti-RV and camper, but the point is to connect to the earth. You can't do that inside an insulated vehicle that has a TV and an easy stove. If you already have that and that's your deal, great. But I would argue you need to get a tent and you need to sleep on the ground. Because when you get a tent and you sleep on the ground and you have to make fire by hand, it's a better experience if the goal is to connect to nature, which every man should do. And then, once you've gained some skills, take your kids with you. Or even if you haven't gained any skills, take your kids with you. Let them see you struggle to figure it out and to gain the confidence of success. Like the first time I took my son cooking, I tried to make biscuits over an open flame, and they were briquettes, man. They were rock hard, burned, inedible junk. We barely had breakfast that day. But since then, I've pretty much figured this stuff out. We had a great breakfast yesterday. It was awesome and it tasted like glory. So get outside. You know, one of my goals for the coming year is to do a backpacking trip where it's not a drive-in, where it's not a drive-up. You know, my life before now has not allowed me for that kind of experience, but I'm making space for that. And really, that's the big takeaway. Find a way to get outside and connect with the outdoors, because men need to be connected to nature. Because when men are connected to nature, they're far less likely to become batteries in a machine, a cog in the system that has no desire to see you thrive or succeed, only to see you pour out energy to perpetuate the system that's keeping you down, keeping you locked into your device. Get connected to the world outside. Men, that is our episode for today. Hope you found that encouraging. Hope you found it challenging. Hope you found some things in there that you can go out and do, because the learning is useless without the doing. We have to learn some stuff and then we have to go do it. And as always, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure you're tuned in. Check out the website, GarrettHines.com. We'll start loading the episodes up there. Man, there's a lot of things I want to do with this podcast, and I need your help to do them. The more men we can get connected to this movement of dudes that are out there trying to be the best men we can be, the better it becomes. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, you know what I find to be most important is share these episodes with the men in your circle. Man, I hope you have a fantastic day. And until next time, cheers. Oh, no. See, I almost did it again. Until next time, get out there and live life to the fullest. Cheers, guys.